Hey, Sibin here, welcome to the second video in this Maya Let's Model tutorial. In this one we're going to be carrying on the Omnidroid. I'm going to be working on the head laser, arms and the claws. So I've just opened the project from the last save. The laser that I used in the speed mod is slightly different from the one that's actually in the film, but what we're going to do is just kind of build one ourselves and kind of base it on what's in the film. So what I'm going to start with is a cube, and the laser kind of builds off of the side of the Omnidroid's head, and it's got a sort of quite a thin swing arm. So start with a cube, I'm going to scale it down so it's quite thin, and then I'm going to just attach it just below this lip. Then I'm going to go into the other views, thin it down that way as well. So we've got a little kind of arm coming out off the side. What we then want to do is, it has a kind of like a shelf support. It has a bar that comes off of the bottom. So for that, I'm going to insert two edge loops. So we want to go to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop Tool, the options. We want to have multiple edge loops and we want two of them. And then what this will do is evenly space them across our object. We can then scale them down a little bit. We'll also need one edge loop near the end where the laser is actually going to go itself. So I just went back into the edge loop tool, should be on the left, and I reset the settings and just added one edge loop. What we can then do with the face that's underneath is we can extrude it. So edit mesh and extrude, and what we want to do is just put it down a little bit. I'm going to turn on wireframe so I can see my objects better, and then what I'm going to do is just pull the vertices down from the sort of head side so we get a bit more of an angle on it, and then I'm going to pull these back a little bit and up, just so we get a little bit of an angle, so we can see that it's actually kind of an arm supporting it. Right, that's kind of all that makes up the arm, so we're just going to smooth this first before we move on. So I'm going to grab all of these edges. And then I'm going to hit bevel. Right, so when I did the bevel and then when I smooth it, it pulls up quite a bit at the end. That's because there's no edge loops to hold this bit in place. So what we want to do is add another edge loop to the end of this. Another option, so if we had an edge loop, that will hold the shape. The other option we have, if we wanted to keep poly count a little bit lower, is I'm going to delete that edge loop. So I've just gone back. We could delete the faces that are on the inside, and then when we smooth it, we kind of get the same result. But that's the swing arm. So what we want to do next is actually build the laser. So we want to probably start with something like a cylinder for this. So I've got a cylinder, just moved it into place, and I've rotated it so it's going the right way. I'm just going to scale it down a little bit now so it fits into this sort of space. So it's a little bit too, so I need to lengthen it out. Probably can scale it up a little bit. What we want to do is leave a little bit of room in here because we need to add some support arms. So we've got the laser, we're just going to add a little bit of detail to this. Mainly things like we're going to grab these faces, do an extrude, scale it down, just to kind of make it actually look like it's a weapon. So just hit extrude, and then I'm just using the G key again just to keep extruding, going with it however I want to try and get what a laser could possibly look like. So I've just kind of made a little cap on the end. So I just did just a lot of extrudes. Once we're done, we'll go back through and bevel all of these. To make it kind of simple, what we can do is insert an edge loop, delete half of our object, and then we want to hit the insert key to move the pivot point, hold down V, and then we want to vertex snap this to one of our vertices around this ring. And then what we want to do, hit insert to confirm, Control D to duplicate, and then whatever is in our... So what we want to do is once we move the pivot point, we want to freeze the transformations. So all of these are reset. Z -1, duplicate first, and then Z -1. I want to select both objects, mesh, combine, so it's putting them back being recognized as one object, and then vertexes, and I want to merge these vertexes. And then what I can do is I can delete this edge if I want to. Edge mode, double click, edit mesh, delete edge vertex. And then what I've got is I've got the same on the front and back. If I smooth it, it's not looking too bad, so we can just add a few bevels if we want to help it keep shape. So I'm probably just going to add a couple in here just to keep the outer ring too strong. So I'm going to turn my fraction down, and then I've just got that outer shape keeping, but the inner is still quite smooth. But it's completely up to you. Right, so next what we want to do is add a few supports. So for this I'm just going to use cylinders, and I'm going to move them into position, scale them down. They're going to be quite small, so we don't need lots of detail on them, but what we do want to do is kind of give them a bit of an angle so they look a bit more natural. We've got a few options here. I can either keep moving it up and to the side, or if I hold down W and hold down left click and go object, it uses the object transformation to recognize which way it's going, and I can then move it at that angle. So I'm just going to move it up a little bit, and then I want to jump back to my world. So I need to move it to the end so it doesn't clash with our center pivot support here. And just to make a few extras, freeze transformation. So modify, freeze transformation, duplicate, X -1, move it across, and then I'm just going to grab both of these and I'm going to duplicate them and put them towards the back, just so I've got two little supports holding it in place. We may want to scale this up just so it looks a bit more kind of aggressive. Right, so the next thing we want to move on to is the joints that attach the arm to the main body. Same again, these dent in, they actually cut into the object. That becomes a bit more kind of complicated. So for now, we're just gonna do the outside bit. So what we want is to create we can do it either with a pipe or a torus, but I'm gonna we'll use a pipe. I want to move it to the outside, my Omnidroid. I want to rotate it so it's facing the right way. So we've got this kind of shape. In the channel box, we've got inputs, polypipe. We may want it in here, adjust things like the thickness, so it's a little bit thinner, the outside ring, and then we're going to want to thin it down as well. The problem we've got at the moment is this is flat and our Omnidroid is round. So what we want to do is use a bend modifier to get it to bend to the shape of the object. So under deform and non-linear, we have a bend. So we're just going to select that, and then what we need to do first is rotate our modifier so it goes the right way. We can check by going curvature. Nope, so see how the curve is bending upwards, so that's the wrong way. So what I want to do is rotate it. Right, so now it's bending the right way, so I just need to set my figure to a minus. It's a little bit strong, so I'm just going to bring these back down. So we just want a slight enough bend so that we can see it's going with our object. This will only do it across this way, so we need to select the object again and do another bend. Deformer. This time we want the bend to go in the y-axis. So we can try again. I've rotated it out the right way, and then so this time it's gone the right way, and I just need to turn it down a little bit. So then what we've got is this kind of nice curve to the object, and now curves with our main body. Now we can add a bit more shape to it. So I've selected one face, double click the one next to it, and now select the whole ring. We want to do an extrude, bring it out a little bit, and we want to round it off. So this is a situation where you could have possibly used a torus. It may have worked just as well. So we've got that. Now we need the actual bit the arm locks into. So for this we're going to use a sphere. So we've done this kind of round bit to kind of hide our shape. If you want, you can do things like scaling this in a bit more so it looks a bit more like the actual shape, or even pushing it in. Right, so what we need to make now is this actual ball joint with the bit the leg fits into. So I've got a sphere. The easiest way to get this kind of shape is if we rotate our sphere so we've got the edge loops going round, because then when we extrude it out they will be the same width. If we took it from this end, we actually wouldn't be able to really use it at all. And we may want to lower subdivs just a little bit. So I've set them to 14. What this will kind of do for us is it will make the bits we extrude the correct sort of width, thickness for us. And we might even be able to take it a little bit lower. Yeah, so something like that is fine. Also, because it's set to this, set to 12, we have a line that goes through the center here, so we can grab these two outside faces and use those to build up our new piece of geometry. So there's a very slight rim here. So what we need to do is just select all of these faces, the same process as before, single click one, double click the next, single click, double click, and we need to do an extrude. And what we want to do is thickness just up a little bit, and then we want to offset inwards a little bit. This is where you're probably going to want to bevel this edge. So just double click this edge, double click this one, and I've beveled, and I'm going to lower my fraction so the lines are closer and add another segment. What that will do is when I smooth it, it will keep that nice break in the object. And then what I'm going to do is scale it up so it fits a little bit better. Now we can work on getting that front face for where the leg will slot. So I've just grabbed these four faces and we want to do an extrude. Because we're going straight out in the X, I'm just going to use W and just drag it out. What we then want to do is another extrude. So G. This time we want to just add a little bit of offset to it, something like 0.05 for my scale. Your values of offsets and things may be slightly different depending on how big you've modeled it and what units you're using, but just experiment with them. We then want to do another extrude, so G, and this time we just want to push it back. So that's the rough shape for our joint. What we now want to do is go through adding edge loops, bevels. So I'm going to add an edge loop in here, delete this edge here. So I've double clicked that edge, edit mesh, delete edge vertex. Then I'm going to add two vertexes back in. When you place two, it auto selects them, and then I can scale them apart, and it'll put it right near the edges for me. And then all we want to do is, so I've grabbed the two end cap edges and the one on the inside, and then I'm going to do a bevel, and that will just help to keep it a little bit more square for us. First thing though is these aren't quite big enough, so what I'm going to do is just select both of them, hit Ctrl G to group them, and then center pivot, and then what I want to do is scale them up, and I'm going to need to move them around. Right, so now what we want to do is start building the leg. So we want to start with a cube. We want something like maybe 40 subdivisions, because looking at the film version, there's quite big, depending on what shot you actually look at. This one has quite big breaks, so I'm guessing it just depends on how stretched out his leg is. So we'll do it like the speedball version then. So we'll use 20. What we want to do is we're going to model the leg straight, and then using the rig and that later, we're going to then bend it into place. So his legs are quite long, so we're going to put 20 subdivs and then just scale it till we think it kind of looks about right. Next thing we want to do is thin it down so it fits in our sort of where the slot is for the joint. The leg gets a little bit thinner as it goes towards the end, so actually we'll do the extrude first. So we want to go to face mode. We want to select all of the faces apart from the ends. Right, so with all the faces selected, what we want to do is hit extrude, and we want to increase the thickness a little bit. First we want to turn keep faces together off, then we want to increase the thickness, and then we want to lower or increase, should I say, the offset. So in this one I'm going to put 0.05. For the thickness I'll probably put 0.02. We basically just want to add a little bit of detail so we have the breaks in here. Right, so what we want to do next is build the bit that the foot joins onto. So we're just going to grab these end faces, hit extrude, bring it forward a little bit, scale it out. We want this to now be flat, so I've gone to vertex mode, grabbed all of these, and then if we scale towards each other it will flatten it out. Then I can go back to face mode, hit extrude again, and then this is where the claw will join on after. Right, so next what we want to do is add 2 edge loops, and what we want to use this for is to give it a very slight curve to the detail. So I'm going to grab all of these vertexes, so they're the top, and I'm going to drag, I'm going to leave the ends actually, so not these ones or these ones. I'm going to drag these ones forward, the bottom ones backwards, and then all the ones in between, we can kind of move them around to get a nice curve. And then all it will do is give us a slight bit of detail in our model. What we now need to do is just get this down so it actually fits into our leg joint. So we're just going to scale it down a little bit. Right, so because of the shape, we might want to, so just grabbing all these top vertexes and bottom vertexes, and then we may want to just scale these closer to each other, and then it won't make the gap around the top so noticeable. So we've kind of pretty much got it fit into place there. We just need to do a little bit of fixing here on the leg. So same again, just want to scale these down. Right, so the other thing we want to do is we've got to put an ankle on here, so we are going to want to fatten this end up. We're not going to do anything too detailed, we just want a cylinder to be at the end. Same again, just rotate it into position, scale it down, and then what we want to do is grab these end faces, hit extrude, and we just want to add something like a platform for where the claw will be able to go onto. So same again, we want to smooth these out. I'm just going to bevel these, and then same as before, we can delete the end faces that are inside because they're not going to be visible. Alright, so this is the platform that our claw is going to work on. So we've got the leg, we've got the laser, the join, and now we need to build the claw. We're going to build just one claw and then do a duplicate special so it closes itself. So this one, same again, this is depends up to you how close you want to make it to the original. I'm just going to make a rough one that we can work with. Right, so we've got our kind of base shaped claw there. The claw does thin towards the end, so what we want to do is add a lattice to it. So under Deform, Lattice, and then on the right we want to change some of these down so we've got less divisions, and then we want to just go to right click, Lattice point, and scale these endpoints together. So what we get is kind of a point to the end. We also might need to make the claw a little bit longer. And then what we want to do is select the claw, go edit, delete by type, history, and then that will get rid of our lattice for us. So that's the single claw done. And then what we're going to use now is duplicate special to get the rest in place. I have done a tutorial on it, so I'm going to be skipping through this fairly quickly. But what we want to do is move the pivot point down to where we want the claw arm to rotate from. So it's going to rotate from this bit down here, so this is basically what it's going to look like. We then want to group it, and because I've built it on the center line, the group should be in the middle here. If it's not, then we can hit insert for the group and snap it to the middle, and then hit insert to confirm. Then what we want to do is open duplicate special, so edit, duplicate special, reset. We want to make them an instance because they're all going to work off of each other. We want to rotate around the X by 90 degrees, and we want 3 more, and then hit duplicate special. And then what we have is 4 claws. If we select one and rotate, they'll all rotate together. So they look quite short, so what we can do is grab one vertex and then move one, and all of them will move together. Same if we want to fatten them up a little bit. So they look a bit more aggressive now they're longer. But that's the head laser. So that's the head laser done, the arm joint, the arm, and the claw. See you in the next video.